Hi, this is Jesse Madison, and I'm here to tell you about 10 mistakes that buyers make to mess up their home purchases. Let's jump right in. The first mistake buyers make is a lot of them don't get pre-qualified before they make an offer on a property or before they go out looking for properties. And the reason that's a mistake is because quite often you can be looking at homes and then you find the right property that you really want, and you submit an offer on that home and the seller is not going to entertain your offer without the pre-qualification letter. Then it's going to take you a day or two to get the pre-qualification, and by that time other offers can come in that are competing against you that do have pre-qualification letters in their offer package, and you're basically going to be behind those offers, and in many cases the offer may be less competitive than yours at a lower price than yours, but it's going to be entertained because they are pre-qualified, and it creates more certainty and more security for the seller to select an offer that where the buyer is pre-qualified. One of the other mistakes that a lot of buyers make is that they wait too long to order the appraisal of the property. The appraisal is part of one of the conditions on the loan. And the appraisal takes, once you order the appraisal, it might take a day or two for the appraiser to even get out to the property, and sometimes it takes 3 or 4 days because they have to schedule that with the seller. So while you're scheduling the appraisal, while you're trying to get everything organized, all this stuff can take some time. So you want to get your appraisal ordered very early. Once the appraiser goes out to the property and actually does the appraisal, they're going to take all their photos and gather all the information, and then they're going to select comps. All this could take a few more days, and sometimes it can take up to a week to get that appraisal back. So when you finally do get that appraisal report, you want to make sure that you have enough time to determine whether the value is actually there. Because if the property does not appraise, if the appraisal comes in lower than what your purchase price is, you're going to either have to bring in the difference in cash to move forward with that deal, or you can still cancel your contract and keep your deposit if you ordered the appraisal early and got everything done in time. However, if your contingency period for your loan expires, you risk losing your deposit if you didn't order the appraisal early. So it's really important to order that appraisal right away. The third thing the buyer does that can mess up their home purchase is not read disclosures. Sometimes the agents will send over you all the disclosures when you're buying a home, and it'll be a big batch of forms, probably like 50 pages long, of all these types of things about the home, the information that some buyers may not read too closely because they sign everything so quickly. They don't take the time to actually read everything that's on the disclosure forms. It could be information regarding taxes of the property, or it could be information regarding if somebody had died in the home, or if there's plumbing issues, or a history of mold that was possibly discovered and then remediated, but there could be some issues that are underlying the potential problems with the home, and a lot of people don't read all the disclosures. They just sign them as quick as they can, or sometimes in DocuSign you can just breeze right through disclosures, but it's really important to take the time to read all the details about a property, because something could come up and then you discover later that there's a mold problem in the house, and if you would have read the disclosures, you probably would have picked up on some signs that you could have avoided potential issues and received maybe a credit to repair some items during escrow, rather than find out after close of escrow that there is an issue. The fourth mistake that some buyers make when purchasing a home is that some buyers fail to read the contract that they're signing. This is a major problem. To understand all the terms in the contract, whether it's credit towards the closing costs that you're asking for, whether it's when you're going to close, when you're going to take possession of the property. You might need to take possession at close of escrow. You might need to take possession at close of escrow plus 3 days. You could who's paying for the termite report, who's paying for a home warranty, all these different details of the contract, who's paying for what. And then in addition to that, when you start getting into the terms of the contingency periods, the 17-day inspection contingency, the loan contingency period, the earnest money deposit, understanding that you will lose your deposit after 17 days once you do remove your contingencies. All these types of things need to be signed in the contract. And some people don't understand all the terms, and of course these terms can be changed, so you can modify the terms in the contract, and you should communicate very closely with your agent. Make sure you do read the contract that you're signing. One of the things that some buyers do not do is they do not look up the taxes on a property that they're going to purchase. And you should be able to go to the tax assessor website for the county that the property is located in Orange County. You would go to the Orange County tax assessor's website. You can put in the property address, or you can put in the parcel number of that property, and you can see a detailed printout of what the taxes are on that particular property. There's going to usually be a 1% levy. It'll be like 1.02% levy on the base price of the property, which is usually the purchase price. So let's say you buy a property for $500,000, it'll be a $5,000 tax on a 1% levy, and then in addition to that, you're going to have special assessments and Mello-Roos tax that could be applied to that particular property. Now this could double the taxes that are due every year on that property, or they could be very low. So it's really important to check to see what the taxes are, because it could be the difference of you paying $5,000 a year in taxes or $10,000 a year in taxes, or somewhere in between. So that's a big deal. It really changes your payment on the property and what you're paying as far as your monthly payment, because you can have the taxes impounded into your payment every month, and then that'll affect how much you pay every month for the home. So a property with lower taxes is usually a little more desirable because your monthly payment's going to be a little bit lower. One thing a lot of buyers forget to do is actually run the comps. Ask your agent to run the comps for you on any home you're going to make an offer. So what you're going to do is you're going to analyze all the data of all the properties near that home that have similar characteristics, that have sold within the last 6 months, or all the actives, pendings. You want to see what's going on, what people are asking for those properties, what's in escrow, at what price point, and also what has sold in the last 6 months. Anything that's similar to that home within a mile. So you want to analyze all that data and make sure you're not overpaying for the property. One of the common mistakes that a lot of buyers make is that they don't interview agents to find out if that agent is really qualified to represent them very well. Sometimes they'll just meet an agent and they'll think, okay, well, I'll use you, but they don't know if that agent's experienced. They don't know if that agent's knowledgeable or has local knowledge of that particular area or that property that they're trying to purchase. And sometimes I think buyers think that it's backwards. They think that it's almost like as if the agent's interviewing the buyer, whether he wants to work with them or not, but the buyer really should be interviewing the agent. And I can't tell you how many times people don't even ask how many homes you've sold. How much experience do you have? It amazes me how many people, just to save a few $100s, like, a home inspection, you can get it anywhere between like $250, $350, $400, but it can catch some things that will really help you negotiate repairs. If you have the backing of a home inspection showing that this particular property needs considerable repairs, whether it's plumbing, whether it's electrical issues, you can even discover mold or other types of defects in the home. So, if you can furnish that home inspection, you're going to be in a much stronger position when you're trying to ask for the seller to do any repairs. The cost of the home inspection is really insignificant for the security that you're going to get, the knowledge you're going to get about that property. It's really wise to get one. I really recommend it anytime you're buying a home. one of the things that some people forget to do is actually conduct a final walkthrough. And the craziness right before the close of escrow, sometimes the last week, it can get pretty hectic. You're signing loan docs, you're trying to make sure that everything's okay as far as the loan goes. You're probably scheduling movers. You've got all kinds of utilities to turn on, turn off. You're scheduling a lot of things, and sometimes people forget to conduct their final walkthrough to make sure that the property is in the same condition as it was when they purchased the home or when they made their offer on the property. So during that whole process, you may have asked for requests for repairs, and then the seller had to complete some repairs, and then you need to verify that those repairs were completed prior to close of escrow. If you close escrow and you discover those repairs weren't completed, well, it's going to be very difficult to get the seller to follow through and spend the money on doing those repairs after escrow has already closed. So you're going to have the most leverage just before close of escrow, and you're going to want to make sure that you do a final walkthrough to make sure that everything is in the same condition that you expect it to be prior to close of escrow. Also, you often see some buyers forget to request a termite report when they're purchasing a property. Sometimes it's by choice, but many times people just don't request it, and it's something that is very standard in the industry, that the seller typically pays for at least a report, which is, you know, a termite report, and then usually the seller will pay for any Section 1 repairs on a termite report that are current termite infestation or dry rot in the property, and that's a customary fee that the seller usually always pays for, so you should put it down when you make an offer.